This is Business and Economy, where we update you on issues about the workings of the general economy. And today, we are on how transparency and accountability will help boost good governance. I am Ile Emeje. Transparency and accountability are critical for the efficient functioning of a modern economy and for fostering social well-being of the citizenry. In most societies, due to the fact that many powers are delegated to public authorities, some assurance must then be provided for the delegators, that is, society at large, that this transfer of power is not only effective but also not abused. Transparency ensures that information is available that can be used to measure the authorities' performance and to guard against any possible misuse of powers. Meanwhile, the experiences of some developing countries like Nigeria in the management of wealth offer dramatic illustration of the issues posed by low implementation of principles of transparency and accountability. On today's episode of Business and Economy, as we are taking a look at transparency and accountability, keys for good governance. My guest is the chairperson, Board of Trustees, Center for Fiscal Transparency and Integrity Watch, Ambassador Angela Nwogu, who will be joining us after the business news to discuss the topic. Stay with us. Nigerian equities market transacted in a total volume of 576 million stocks at the last session, valued at 6.79 billion naira across 6,143 deals. Nigeria Breweries was top on the advancers with a profit of 9.97%, followed by FTN Cocoa Processing and Sovereign Insurance, appreciating with 9.68% and 9.52%. On the decliners, CWG led the list with a loss of 9.63%, followed by Courtville Business Solutions and Adova PLC, depreciating with 6.52% and 6.06%. In volume terms, United Bank for Africa was the most traded stocks, contributing in 94 million stocks, while Transcorp and Access Corporation traded in 86 million stocks and 62 million stocks accordingly. Meanwhile, the Naira weakens against the dollar on the parallel market, selling for 748 Naira to the dollar, 924 Naira to the pound sterling, and 810 Naira to the euro. Ile Emeje, ASO Television News. You are on to Business and Economy program. On this episode, our focus is on transparency and accountability as keys to good governance. Our guest is the board chairman of the Center for Transparency Initiative and Integrity Watch. I take it again. The board chairperson, Board of Trustees, Center for Fiscal Transparency and Integrity Watch, Ambassador Angela Nwogu. Ambassador, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Ile.
Okay. All right. Transparency and accountability have been identified as tools for good governance. How well can this be?
Yes. First of all, let me thank you for this program, and also our thanks will go to ASO TV for having us here. Yes, accountability and integrity and transparency are important for good governance. And this is because when there's openness in government, then everything is transparent. Everybody knows what is going on. Government, becomes credible. Citizens can trust the people they have put in government to look after them. Okay. And so the citizens will themselves support the government. And when that happens, the government will be successful because the citizens will become active participants in the government. And the overall effect of this is, credibility, welfare of the citizens, and even the economy of the country will grow.
Okay, it has been said that One of the responsibilities of government is the timely presentation of the necessary data or index, as the case may be, showing government's direction or performance. How do you think we as a country we have fared over the years, not just today, but over the years? Do you see us as maybe having achieved in the presentation of our data or indexes, as the case may be?
Even though we have all the laws, that encourage all government parastatals, MDAs, to publish in a timely manner all information concerning their activities, we haven't had this in practice. So to answer your question directly, Nigeria hasn't fared well. And it's not just Nigeria. Many countries in the world, especially in Africa, we haven't had, the practice of publishing, the activities of every government department. And this has led to illiteracy on the part of citizens, because citizens don't know what government is doing. And so you often hear citizens criticize government. Anyhow, because they haven't been informed of the activities of the government. So it is a number one function of government to make citizens aware. Citizens will even begin to support them and help in the administration when they are well informed, and they will become, active participants, as I said before, in the affairs of government. This can only have positive impact, on the activities of the government. But we hope that things are changing with the activities of centers like ours and other CSOs whose main weapon is advocacy. We are trying to educate the general public on the importance of them being properly informed of what their government is doing, how all the money that is being raised is being used, what it is applied to, and how it should improve the welfare of the citizens. When the citizens know this, then they won't have any problem. They will not worry. And when the monies are not well applied, they will have the proper backing, because they are well informed, to demand of those they have put in power, to show them how they are applying all their resources. And this is what we are trying to do, so that we'll have an, even playing field, not all the time secrecy and speculations, which fuel, complaints and sometimes demonstrations. These are not necessary. They waste the time of both the people and the government, and they do not make for progress in the economy, in the welfare of the citizens.
The question I would like to ask at this junction is, why is it peculiar to maybe African nations, so to say, that accountability and transparency, that is, our ability to disseminate the necessary data, is becoming a problem? Is it that we are yet to come to the understanding or the relevance, the importance of what this can do to the citizens? Just like you rightly said, that once the citizens are well informed, they will not have problems. We have had a lot of abuses on the government, a lot of fake news, and people coming up to say one or two things that are not really true about governance in Nigeria. And this can be traced to maybe their inability to understand the direction that the government is taking, how much the government has received, how much we have spent on A, B, and C. I want to use the example of tax collection, for example. In most African countries, the citizens are always reluctant to remit tax. And one of their complaints has been that, what is the government even using our money for? So is it that the government in Africa you are yet to come to that realization of the relevance of information dissemination to our citizens? Why is it so in Africa?
It is because of a combination of the things you have mentioned. And then on top of everything we have talked about here is corruption.
Okay.
Yes, because it thrives in secrecy.
Yeah.
And chaos. So when there is confusion, lack of information, people do not know what is happening. And so those who want to indulge in corruption can do it without being noticed. Now, what aids this corruption is also lack of transparency, lack of information. We believe strongly at the center that if the citizens are well informed, they will, put their governments to task. They will put their representatives to task. They will ask relevant questions. And if the people leading us know that we are watching and that we know what they are doing, believe me, there will be a change. Because nobody wants to be named and shamed. Even if we are so corrupt, we don't want to, for us to be brought to the open, and criticized. We still have our pride. And this is where we are coming from, to make sure that every citizen is well educated, is informed on the activities of government. And this is why we encourage all government departments. On your website, which the law makes, important for you, you have to have a website. Every activity you conduct, let it be on your website, so that anybody who wants to know what you're doing will just go there and see it. And you should have, a facility through which people can ask you questions on that your website. If they don't understand what you're doing, they ask questions, and you must respond timely.
Okay.
This, as I said before, will give rise to confidence in the government. It will reduce corruption drastically.
Okay, in all, which will you suggest for the government, not just the government of Nigeria, let's say Africa as a whole, to be transparent and accountable to your people, or to be corrupt because of the dangers embedded in corruption?
Because all governments, no matter where they are, whether in Africa or in other parts of the world, should be accountable to the people. You see, that is why it is the people that elected them. They put them there. And positions of authority are positions of trust.
Yeah.
And you have to earn this trust. How do you earn it? By being transparent. If I send you on an errand, I give you 10 naira, go and buy me biscuit. You bought the biscuit for 6 naira, and you come back, you just give me the biscuit. You don't tell me, you didn't give me a receipt, you didn't give me change. Will I trust you next time to send you?
It's very hard.
It is very hard. This is what transparency is. Let us know what you're doing. Tell us what you're doing. Tell us why you're doing it. Tell us how it's going to benefit us. And this is what has led to our Transparency and Integrity Index, which this year is the 3rd year. We publish it every 28th of September to mark the UN Day of Universal Access to Information. In this index, last year, for instance, we evaluated 554 NDAs. 554.
In Nigeria.
In Nigeria. This year, we're evaluating those 554 plus more, and then we're adding the 774 local governments
in
Nigeria. We're going to evaluate them using mainly their websites. We go to each of these websites and see how far they have complied with the variables which we have adopted, in this evaluation. And mind you, these variables we have drawn from all the laws that Nigeria is signatory to, both within Nigeria, in West Africa, in Africa, and internationally, which means the UN, African Union, ECOWAS, and the laws of Nigeria, the Open Governance Initiative. We've drawn all the variables from this, and we have compiled them. And you were in our program a few days ago when we launched the handbook, which explains how we use these variables to evaluate people. We do this 5-6 months before we publish the report, so that the MDAs will have no complaint as to how the evaluation itself is done. So in the index, everybody sees their marks. When we publish it, we send it to everybody who has been evaluated, so that they know
their performance rate
and know what they have to do. And to make this more effective, we have gone into partnership with some MDAs. For instance, the Bureau for Public Service Reform is working with us, in reaching all the MDAs and educating them on how, this should be done. And we're reaching out to other African countries where we hope to make the template of our Transparency and Integrity Index a global way of evaluating and ensuring that there's transparency and accountability in the public space.
Okay, when we are talking about transparency and accountability, we are simply looking at a kind of torchlighting the ministries, departments, and agencies in most cases. But again, some analysts have expressed concern on the low implementation of the principles of transparency and accountability by these MDAs in Nigeria. What do you think should be done?
Yes, we are doing what we can, using our tool, which is advocacy, in educating. You see, I keep repeating this. This is the key to the work we do, and the key to bringing enlightenment to the citizenry. Because when the citizens are enlightened, everything will change. Ignorance is a very bad thing.
It is.
If you're ignorant of something, you have no basis to even talk about it, let alone criticize it, you know. But if you're well informed, you can say, look, this is the money that was given to you for this period. What have you done with it? You haven't told us what you have done with it. You have, you know, fabricated another budget, and you're looking for more money. Tell us, first of all, what you've done with this. And if we're able to achieve this, and we're hoping that we will, because the difference between the two TIIs that we have done before, it shows that there's a lot of improvement. And if we continue, and with the support of our international and national, you know, helpers, we will be sure to achieve much more.
Okay, you have been talking about your organization or your agency, which is the Center for Transparency and Integrity Watch. And can you just throw more light on your major focus and how do you think that this will help to stimulate the Nigerian economy, especially in the area of good governance?
Yes. The Center for Fiscal Transparency and Integrity Watch was established only in 2016.
Wow.
And our focus is accountability, transparency, good governance, and integrity in the public space. Our emphasis is the public space, because we realize that if there's sanity in the public space, it will cascade, you know, even to the private sector, even to all the other sectors. And transparency will now become an integral part, you know, of life in Nigeria and in other parts of the world. So our focus being these four things I have mentioned, we try using advocacy. We hold a lot of seminars, where we educate people. We even conduct training, you know, for government agencies. Some of the laws that have been passed, the relevant agencies sometimes need to be trained on those laws. And we have experts who do this training to open their eyes to what they need to do with their own enabling laws. We do all this and more. We have come up with a Transparency and Integrity Index. We have our probes monitor, where we focus on all the probes that government has instituted for 5-6 years now. Because we realize that what government does is, when citizens shout about corruption, grand corruption, they will quickly go and set up you know, a probe. And citizens are, you know, calm down, so government is doing something. Yes, they are doing something by establishing these probes, but they don't follow through on them, because then citizens don't get informed on what was the outcome of these probes. You know, who were the culprits, were they prosecuted, what the money recovered, what was it used for, and things like that. So we actually do a lot of work in this area to help government, because we're not in opposition with government. All we do is to help government and to make sure government works better for the benefit of all Nigerians.
Okay, again, there has been anti-corruption advocacy over the years. So many people have come up to say, we are advocating for this, we are helping government. And at the end of it, it will look as if these people are sponsored by the government that is supposed to work for and to enlighten the citizens. What makes your center different?
Oh, our center is different because there's a lot of commitment. Those that are there, if you go through the board, you see the caliber of people there. These are people who have worked, who have been everywhere in the world, and who have seen it all, who have now come back to help.
Okay.
They're helping not because of what they will get, because the center doesn't have money. We run on, what others give us, we use, and the support we get from the organizations we partner with. So there's commitment, and there's also enlightenment on the part of the center. And having dealt with some government agencies, we realized where the problem lies, which, as I have been emphasizing here, is the ignorance on the part of citizens. Because the government needs to be pushed and encouraged and pressurized by a well-informed citizenry. So that is why our focus is on educating the Nigerians, so that they can help in this governance, in bringing about good governance. The citizens have to be active participants. And mark you, when I say active, I don't mean like protesting.
Because I was coming to ask you, how do you think
I don't mean, that is not what, by being enlightened and, asking questions, relevant questions, going to their representatives and saying, this is, what you're supposed to be doing. Can you tell us how you did it? How much did it cost you? How is it to benefit us? Such simple questions go a long way in bringing about change. We want to educate the citizens so that they can encourage the government to perform better. That is what is different between what we are doing and what has been done in the past. We are hoping that the way we are looking at things will spread. This is why our template, we are making sure it goes to African countries, where we already have Liberia and Uganda on board. You were at the event, and we hope to bring other countries on board for them to have their transparency and integrity index to make sure that governments are pressurized in the right way to serve their citizens better.
Okay. You have been operating for like between 5 to 6 years in Nigeria now. You said you established in 2016. So about 5 to 6 years, some years ago. How can you make an assessment of good governance in Nigeria before your establishment and right now? Can you say that we are performing better than we used to be? Is there any difference, any change, any impact on the economy or on good governance so far?
I would say that there has been a change. Because we are not empirically measuring this change. Maybe that will be what we will do after our 10th anniversary. We'll be able to do a study to have an empirical answer to this kind of question. But from the response to our Transparency and Integrity Index, we know that MDAs are trying to conform.
Okay.
In fact, now there's a competition between them.
Oh, that's great.
The Development Bank of Nigeria came first in the last one.
Oh, wow.
And they have been, they won't let anybody say anything. They have been so proud of themselves. Yes. And they were at that event, and I talked to them. I said, look, don't let anybody take this, your position from you. So this is what we have been seeing. And more, MDAs are trying to do their best in transparency. Okay. As we say, that is the key. Once they can show, what they are doing, then they can be tracked. There will be a path through which you can track them and their activities. This is what is lacking now. Okay. And with our work, we are making steady, but even if slow progress. But progress is being made. Okay.
Are you also in your organization working towards maybe looking at the links between the government and these MDAs and the people? While trying to say, are you as an agency looking at the missing link, that is looking at how to persecute MDAs and other government agencies that are not complying with the necessary process or procedures, as the case may be? Is there any way that they can be persecuted? I'm asking this question on the backdrop of the fact that it is not, I believe, it is not all the MDAs in Nigeria that are fully complying or that have complied with following the principles of transparency and accountability, as the case may be. Is there any plan or anything to show that MDA A, B, C, and D that refuse to comply with the process of transparency and accountability can be prosecuted? Is there anything like that? Because where there is no enforcement, I
Yes.
tell you that some persons may just
As
use
you
the
know,
opportunity to...
we're a CSO. We don't
Okay.
have prosecutory powers.
Okay.
But what we do is to bring the facts to the open. When we publish all these indexes, the facts are there for everyone to see. Because in the enabling laws of these MDAs, it is mandatory, you know, for them to publish very critical information. So when we do the publications, all the enforcement agencies see it. In fact, we partner with some of them. We go with these, our publications, and we share it with them. We educate them on it, how we came about it, vis-a-vis the laws mandating these MDAs to publish information.
Okay.
So we leave it there. The police is there. All the enforcement agencies are there to pick it up because we have supplied them all the information they need to have an easy prosecution. Because that is not our own, you know, duty. We don't have those powers. But, you know, we make sure that those that have the powers are well aware of the results of our investigation.
But in case somebody will want to know and say, oh, this center is doing a great job, it's supporting government and good governance in Nigeria, can we just list 1, 2, 3 impacts of what you have done on the economy so far? In this area, we have done this. In this area, it has impacted this. In this area, people are becoming more aware, and the rest of them. And you say that you have plans to take this advocacy to the 774 local government councils
Yes.
in Nigeria.
Okay. In fact, they are already informed because, you know, they attended our function, and we also go to the Association of Local Governments in Nigeria to educate them. So they are already aware. You see, the problem with the local government is that up till now, they have been somewhat overshadowed by the states politically. But as you know, in our constitution, we have 3 tiers of government. The local government, the state, they are autonomous by this constitution.
They should.
So what we are doing is actually to encourage them, you know, to demand that autonomy. Because when we now evaluate them individually, they will begin to realize that, they are really supposed to be individual and not under the states. And that way, the monies that are meant for them will be sent to them, and they will use it to develop, knowing that we are watching and other CSOs are now watching. There will be development in the grassroots, which is what is lacking now.
Okay.
It is lacking because the monies either do not get there, or when they get there, is not applied, you know, to the projects for which they are meant. And so when local governments are developed, it comes up to the states. And before you know, this Jackpot syndrome that we are suffering from now will be curtailed. People are running away because they don't see any reason to stay.
And it should be a great concern to every one of us.
And it's a great concern to every one of us. Because our best brains are leaving us. Our best. Because when they get to all those countries, they hold them, they don't want them to leave because they realize that they have gold. All our best people are leaving, and we should all work towards stopping it. There's no way we'll develop without our best brains.
Okay, now working with other relevant authorities of the government like the MBS and others that you have mentioned, how has the relationship been so far?
It's been wonderful. Like I mentioned, the Bureau for Public Service Reform, you know, which is in charge of policy development in the entire public service. We have a very close relationship with them. And when we are doing the TII or its handbook, we work with them, the probes monitor. There's another program where we bring in retired civil servants to come and share, you know, their experience while in service. Because, you know, in Nigeria, once you finish serving, it's like you're discarded. All the experience you garnered in 35 years, government discards it.
What are you people doing about it in your area?
That is what we're doing with the BPSR. Okay. So we have that program where retired ambassadors like myself and other people come to that program to share their experiences. We ask questions, relevant questions, you know, to what is happening in the country, and they use their experience to answer it. And it serves as a pool of expertise. Government can actually go there to pick people to send on errands or to do things depending on, you know, the experience and the expertise, you know. So we're trying to bring all these things together. And there's a lot of wastage in terms of expertise in Nigeria. Government, we don't even have a pool, you know, of people that have done certain things where government can go and take people. These people are not looking to be paid, mind you.
Like a volunteer.
Yes, and they're happy. They will be happy to serve their fatherland. So that they'll be busy and they will not die early. What happens here is people retire and before you know it, 2 years they're dead. Because they're not being used by the government that they have served for 35 years. So using that program, we're trying to curtail this and to use their expertise for the benefit of our country.
Don't you also think that your organization should also develop or have a program for those that are near retirement age, so that it will also educate them, and before retirement maybe they can think of one or two things or one way or the other to maybe fix themselves in order to keep their body and soul together. Do you have any of such plans?
We have those in our plan. We have so many things in our plan, and that is one of them. And that will be an outgrowth of the one we have started. Because those that retired, they are mentoring those about to retire, and those ones are mentoring those. It's something that cascades and is going to develop as time goes on. We are looking at, you know, there's so much that needs to be done, and we're taking it one after the other so that we don't get overwhelmed.
Okay. We'll take a quick break now and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Sir, can you please give us the permission to search you? You can go.
Is this a movie? If it happened.
Officer, I beg carry and go station. When our Oga come, you come meet am for there.
Hey, Mr. Man, I cannot do that.
Tell your Oga to come to our station when he returns.
Am I in a movie? If it happen,
Mama, please.
Mama, please.
Thank God you're here. Do the needful.
Mama, please, just 3 weeks
Madam,
now.
why did you invite us to come help chase your tenants now?
This is a civil matter now.
Is this a movie? If it happen,
If we follow
The new police law.
Thank you so much for being here with us on the program Business and Economy. The analyst is the board chairperson, Center for Fiscal Transparency and Integrity Watch, Ambassador Angela Nwogu. Ambassador, before we went on the break, we were looking at the necessity of advocacy to all tiers of governance. I'm so happy that you are taking this advocacy to the local government areas in Nigeria. Why? You may say because this is going to help in curbing, if not eliminating, a lot of fake news and fake reportings on the social media. But again, looking at the local government, we have a lot of local governments, about 774 local governments in Nigeria. And have you ever thought of the challenges that you may have to go through, and how do you think you can overcome them?
Well, there are many of them, but our first point of call is their websites, because the law demands that each of them has a website. So that's the first place we'll go to look at their websites. And when we go through and there's a necessity to physically go to some of them, then we will go. And we also use emails. We will use telephone. We will use, all kinds of contacts to make sure that our evaluation will be a comprehensive one. So we don't think it's going to be something that we cannot do.
That means we are going to thrive on the use of
Technology. And where we cannot, then we use physical contact.
Where you cannot, you are going to use physical contact. Okay, again, in your advocacy and dissemination of information, where you cannot get this information on the website, I don't know, maybe it's an allegation. There was an allegation that some ministries purposefully will refuse to drop their information on their website. What do? You take it, since you are a CSO,
yes.
Is there any length?
We publish it in our TII, and we say they did not do that.
Okay.
And everybody will read it and know that they did not do that. There were some MDAs who, once it was published last year, they were calling us, to say, why did you do that? Why didn't you see us? No. What we see is what we publish. You did not publish this, so it goes in the report. And you'll be named and shamed. Next time, you will not do it. Okay. Those NDAs who are now shouting that why didn't we, get in touch with them. This one, we are sure they will present all those information because they don't want to be, named again in the forthcoming edition.
All right. Looking at your recent public presentation of the handbook, I was there.
Yes.
At the handbook, one may be tempted to ask you if you are working for the present administration or the past administration, or your focus is on the incoming administration.
Our focus is for good governance. It doesn't matter which administration is in power. Because, mind you, it is the same citizens of Nigeria that bear the brunt of corruption. So our focus is in promoting good governance, transparency and accountability, and integrity. Integrity is so lacking in our country today that, when things happen that should shock us, we're no longer shocked. It's, everybody waves it aside.
As if it's
normal. It's not normal. So we want to reawaken these senses that we are burying within us, so that things can still shock us. When we see things that are horrible happening, we can still be shocked, as normal human beings should. That's what we are doing, to reawaken these senses and to make Nigerians active and present. Most of us don't care what the government is. Are they buying my gari? They are buying your gari. The road you are traveling on is full of potholes. Soon there's an accident, somebody dies. The hospitals are not equipped. We don't have electricity. We don't even have running water. Look at our refineries. For how many decades? These are the things that are happening due to corruption, due to the fact that the citizens are not pressurizing their government to do the right thing. And that is why we are focusing on advocacy, on enlightening the average Nigerian to know what is happening and to become involved so that our governments can, serve us better. We put them there to serve us. Let us make sure that they do so.
There is a mindset, like you reiterated now. Most Nigerians have made up their minds about governance, not just in this administration, but over the years. So just neglect, just give it an I don't care kind of attitude towards maybe government performance and the rest of the things like that. How do you think in your advocacy, how can you change our mentality to be involved in governance?
That is that's the crux of the matter. We want to change the mindset of the average Nigerian by giving him the necessary information to educate him so that he knows what is happening around him. So that this I don't care attitude, as you described it, can begin to wane. It's not serving us well. The things we think do not concern us, concern us. They concern us, like the examples I just gave. You take your relation to the hospital. There are no drugs. The doctors have all run away. There are countries that came to Nigeria to recruit our doctors under our very nose. They came as a country to recruit Nigerian doctors. How can we, watch and allow these kinds of things to happen? It's not that we have enough doctors. We don't. And yet we are watching as other countries come, as countries, not as private companies, as a nation to another nation to recruit our doctors.
That is a different ballgame. Though
Yes.
we are talking about transparency and accountability.
Yes.
But recall that recently, maybe some few weeks ago, I think the government came up with to make some policies that they are going to place a ban on in the area of medical doctors, maybe going abroad or leaving Nigeria for other countries, maybe in search of better job or better life. Honestly, I cannot say, but I think the government is doing something on it. And if you can intensify your advocacy, your enlightenment campaign to every nook and cranny of this country, I think the better for us. Okay, coming
Yes.
home to the Federal Capital Territory, can you say that you have enlightened us? Because some people may be hearing us for the first time, honestly, I don't know, but can you say that you have enlightened us enough? If not, how do you plan to achieve all of this?
The FCT is our city of domicile, and so most of our activities take place here. So across Nigeria, the FCT is a place that we have done more advocacy than any other place. And so we can, sort of beat our chest and say we are doing well at the FCT. But it doesn't mean that there's no room, for improvement. We are going on with our programs, our advocacy, our training workshops. We are doing all that. And so the FCT will become more and more educated in terms of transparency and accountability, and also other parts of the country.
Time will not permit us to touch so many areas, but I am sure if we invite you again, you will come. But in rounding, what would be your advice for the incoming government in the area of transparency and accountability, and as well as building confidence in the citizens of this country?
My advice is what I will advise any administration, and that is to become open. Have an open administration where citizens will know what you're doing.
Okay.
Your programs, you should, all across all the MDAs, the relevant MDAs for certain things must be ready and willing to publish information that will educate the citizens on their activities. This is the only way, to build confidence in the citizenry. Okay. And the government needs its citizens to have confidence in itself. That makes them credible. Every government wants to be credible. That will also reduce corruption, because when things are in the open, there's no way for corrupt people to hide. They don't have that secrecy, and that darkness under which to hide. So this will be my humble suggestion to the incoming administration.
Okay, the government should embark more on advocacy, and then advocacy programs. Apart from that, the government should be transparent and accountable enough in order to build confidence in the citizens. Then they carry us all along. All right, that is the size of our package on today's episode of Business and Economy. The guest we have been speaking with is the chairperson, Board of Trustees, Center for Fiscal Transparency and Integrity Watch, Ambassador Angela Nwogu. Ambassador, we want to thank you so much for honoring our invitation on today's edition.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is mine.
Okay. And to you, our esteemed viewers and listeners out there, we sincerely appreciate your time with us on this edition of the program. Ensure to pursue the unity of Nigeria at all costs. Do have a blessed week ahead.